Okay, so in 2021, we were brought Spider-Man No Way Home. And I know you guys are probably thinking, why are we talking about Spider-Man No Way Home in 2024? And literally almost 2025. Well, that's because we got cameos from our beloved Tobey Maguire's and also Andrew Garfield's, and we absolutely loved it. Or I would assume most of us loved it. I know I personally did. Now, seeing all these cameos, I thought it was amazing. But the first thing that came to my mind when I saw Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was Gwen. Gwen. And the way she passed on and what happened because of it, right? The first thing that came to my mind was what happened to Gwen. Because at the end of the day, we are dealing with a Spider-Man that is standing right in front of us that lost somebody very, very near and dear to his heart, the love of his life, and he lost her. So when I heard him say that he just stopped pulling his punches, that one of those days he just stopped pulling his punches, I about lost my mind. That's the truth. I'm not gonna lie to you. I may have went with a good friend of mine a while back to see that movie, and I may have been crying for quite a bit of that movie. Now, they were crying as well, but of course I get the call out on that, but that's kind of beyond the point. But of course we have Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man say that he stopped pulling his punches. So that's why today we'll be talking about what would have happened if Spider-Man did stop pulling his punches. We'll talk about kind of what is the reason why Spider-Man basically doesn't do this, what could happen if he possibly did this, and also a time where he actually did this. Because obviously we know that Andrew Garfield, based on what he said, or The Amazing Spider-Man, did stop pulling his punches to a certain degree or for a certain time span. But obviously we don't have the actual footage of this happening, but there are some comics out there that has Spider-Man stop pulling his punches, which becomes very, very interesting when you're dealing with someone like Spider-Man. Because we kind of look at Spider-Man a lot of the times as this street level, city level type of hero, right? He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He can't really destroy absolute asteroids when it's raining from the sky and stuff like that. But Spider-Man's superhuman strength alone allows him to carry more than you could possibly imagine. And he would have no problem seriously injuring or even killing most people with a single punch. The villains he usually fights, like, people like the Vulture or the Shocker, those people are normally just regular people, just with high-tech gadgets. So of course he's going to have to pull his punches massively. I mean, at the end of the day, we have people in his kind of villain repertoire, like Kingpin, who is a human being. Yes, he is a freak of nature, don't get me wrong, he is a unit. But at the end of the day, we are talking about normal human beings with technology or freak of natures that he's going to be able to hurt extremely bad if he doesn't actually pull his punches, which we will talk more about that very soon as well. At the end of the day, though, when we are dealing with a Spider-Man who stops pulling his punches, or a Peter Parker, we are dealing with somebody who is endangering innocent lives. If he stops pulling back those punches and he starts absolutely doing anything to win a fight, it would be insane, the repercussions, at least if we got it to a different level. We've seen a Peter Parker who is kind of venomized, or maybe venom is part of him, and he goes berserk, right? He goes to obliterate his villains, making it so that structures and other things like that come crumbling down without a absolute thought. But truly, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is really the psychological toll, not only on himself, but on the kind of identity of what his hero is. For starters, Peter Parker is deeply kind of written in morality. At the end of the day, we are learning and seeing that his actions are all guided by one lesson, more specifically, with great power comes great responsibility. And when he, or if he ever crosses that line and kills or severely hurts somebody to a degree, he could be living with massive amounts of guilt. And I know a lot of us, we look at this and we look at superheroes and we look at superpowers, And I'm sure a lot of you have thought, imagine if I had those superpowers. Imagine if I was like Spider-Man and I had Spider-Man-like powers. What if I was Superman and I had Superman-like powers? What would have happened if you had those things? Well, it would be awesome. It would be, initially. But we all know that if someone near and dear to us would have gotten hurt or would get hurt, it would be no holds bars. We would not be able to control ourselves. And at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but if I was in Spider-Man's position and I saw innocent people, especially people like children, getting hurt or in the crossfire of horrible gang-like affiliation, or horrible people just punishing the citizens of my city for no reason, I don't know if I'd be able to hold back in that regard. And I don't know if I'd be able to be a more strong-willed person, mentally and physically, to stop myself from hurting people that would really do wrong, right? Because there's one thing from hurting a grown man, right? There's a grown person or an adult. There's one thing. That's one thing. But hurting children or hurting people that kind of can't really defend themselves by any means, it would be horrible. To the point where I don't even understand how Spider-Man himself pulls himself from that reality. Just making sure that those people are safe and kind of not doing the extra punishment on those people. But like I said, the loss of or the psychological toll on Spider-Man, but also on the people themselves, would be immense. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people look at Spider-Man as this hero, as this person who's swinging side to side and swinging throughout their city to protect them, to protect us. And when we get to the point where Spider-Man isn't doing that as much, and let's say Spider-Man is so brutal to the point that we don't know if we can even trust him, that's a big issue. And honestly, it would get even worse, and fear would even run rampant even more when dealing with J. Jonah Jameson. The accusations that he makes of Spider-Man being a menace, and we are literally seeing Spider-Man beat people half to death, if not worse, it would get really bad. Yes, he is doing the right thing, but he's doing it the wrong way. And that is something that happens quite a bit when people believe they're doing the right thing. People are stopping the bad people, but in turn, stopping the bad people, you are becoming a bad person. You are taking on that darker persona. And let's just say the surrounding opinion of Spider-Man would begin to plummet if he stopped pulling his punches. A lot of these fights that Spider-Man has is in broad daylight. I mean, sometimes there are times that, from your muggers to, just some random measly villain. And what if Spider-Man took it a little further? Instead of just webbing them up, sticking them to a wall, and leaving them there for the police to come, what if he started hurting them, like badly? Now, of course, this is all kind of speculation to a certain extent, because there is going to be some unintended consequences in the superhero community because of this. At the end of the day, we are dealing with a Spider-Man or a Peter Parker who basically doesn't refuse to cross lines, and would cross a line whenever he felt like it, or would be in such an emotional state that he would have no problem crossing that line. Now, I don't blame him. I don't restrain him. I don't kind of say that, oh, he's horrible because he did this. And I want to talk about a comic where he does do this, where he does stop pulling his punches. And I want to talk about Peter Parker in Back in Black. Now, this is an awesome comic, and I would love to say, like, oh yeah, I recently read this, but it was actually quite a while ago, and I've been waiting to actually do a video kind of talking about it, or at least referencing it. We are dealing where basically Spider-Man reveals his identity to the world, and this is always an idea that basically is brought up quite a bit, where, like, what if Spider-Man did reveal his identity and became more of like a figure, right? A figure for the community even deeper, because he was born and raised where he's currently defending. He is literally just like one of them. But when you reveal your identity and you have a plethora of these villains, you are dealing with some various issues. And one of those issues comes to light when a hitman would try to shoot Peter while he was just standing, which I believe was just in his house. When he tries to shoot him, though, it would miss Peter and it would hit Aunt May. Aunt May would fall to the ground and immediately they would rush her to the hospital. But this would lead Peter on an insane manhunt. He would basically try to hunt down this person. He would go through countless other people, beating them. We're talking beating them, like horribly, way worse than he ever would. And he would be trying to find this person. And eventually he would find this person. Eventually coming across this person, he would put an absolute beating on this person and would want to know not only obviously who fired that bullet, which he would eventually find, but learns that the guy is working for Kingpin. And Peter, well, he would no doubt don his black Spider-Man suit and he would go headed over to that prison that supposedly Kingpin is just the, well, Kingpin of. Now, I will admit, seeing a Spider-Man enraged in the black suit, in utter just anger and uncontrollable at this point, I think it's one of the dopest and most awesome versions of Spider-Man. Now, I'm not saying I don't love your typical Peter Parker, who is a great role model for the city and, you know, is a great person and all that. I love that version of Spider-Man as well. Don't get me wrong. But there's something about a hero going just a little bit darker. There's always something about a hero losing that someone that is so close to their heart that they refuse to pull back those punches anymore. We've seen heroes do it quite often, right? From your Batmans losing people to your Supermans doing the same. We have seen countless heroes lose someone they love near and dear to their hearts, and they just lose it. And they let it absolutely loose, and they start just showing what they can truly do, and they become almost villain-like. Villains don't hold back. Villains don't pull punches. Villains don't make sure that you don't croak over and die. And this version of Spider-Man is very close to just that. Because when he would arrive in that prison, when he would land and he would be ready to confront Kingpin, sneaking into the prison and dropping down, Kingpin is prepared. He's ready for a battle and he's ready to take on Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's not talking, not saying a word. And frankly, a Spider-Man who does not talk is a Spider-Man who is very, very scary and very terrifying, because he begins to beat down Kingpin senseless. We're talking beat him senseless. And he's obviously outclassing Kingpin. And we've seen battles with Kingpin. We've seen battles with other villains. Spider-Man versus this villain. Insert whatever villain you want. And normally we're like, hey, this villain, it's a pretty even matchup. But this felt sad. It felt like it was a literal normal citizen, a normal human being versus an absolute freak of nature. Maybe even a god, right? That's what it felt like. Now, I'm not going to say Spider-Man's strength and power is godlike, which I know maybe some people would deem it that way, but obviously we have people that are way higher level in strength. But the point is, kind of facing off with someone that is literally a normal citizen versus someone who is extremely superpowered and cranked up is kind of the vision we got here. The vision of Peter just destroying him. But keep in mind, this is Peter with a suit on. He has his suit on, the black suit on, and he beats him, right? But then he decides, hey, I'm going to take off the suit because guess what? Spider-Man's not going to beat you today. Peter Parker is going to. And this right here is scary, because we are talking about pure embarrassment. Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, Peter Parker is ready to run house on this guy, beat him to the ground into nothing. And that's exactly what he does, eventually leading basically Kingpin to be sitting there begging for mercy for the most part, right? Knowing that he lost, watching as the embarrassment would fill his face as everybody watches him in his weakest moments. And Spider-Man would grab him and put his palm up to the mouth of Kingpin and tell him that he could fill his lungs up with webbing and he would die in seconds. Gone. Just like that. And nobody would remember you. Nobody. you'd be gone without a thought in a matter of days, weeks, whatever, however long, gone. That's how quickly and how scary Spider-Man is. He's basically telling him like, yeah, you are done. You are done. And obviously he didn't say every word that I said, like, oh, everyone's going to forget you. He didn't actually say that, I don't believe. But he obviously was showing him that he was basically nothing, that he should be embarrassed. He should be basically shown that anybody, that Spider-Man himself will not stand for this. But on top of that, that Peter Parker is the one that beat him today. And that Peter Parker made him look weak, made him look like he was nothing. And that's exactly what Peter did. And he would tell him that he could kill him right now. And he's not showing mercy. He's not showing him this mercy. He's not showing weakness either. Because if he goes back and his Aunt May doesn't make it, well, he better be ready to be right back in the same position that they're in right now, because he's coming back to end him. If Aunt May doesn't survive, he will come back and end him entirely. And this is terrifying. This is truly just scary. You don't really see heroes act in this way. And don't get me wrong, I am not shaming Spider-Man by any means. If I was in the same position and I had the powers that he did, and I had all of this rage building up, I don't know. I highly doubt I'd be able to stop myself from doing something as crazy as him. Frankly, I think Spider-Man has more self-restraint than ever before because of this specifically. But at the same time, him beating on Kingpin shows that there's a reason why he pulls his punches. There's a reason why he stops himself from going all out completely against some of these villains that are in his kind of repertoire of villains, right? It's this list of villains. There's a reason why he pulls his punches, because the guy was beaten to an absolute pulp, and then he put the fear of God in him, especially when he's telling him that he can fill his lungs up with webbing and end him in an instant. And it is terrifying seeing a Peter Parker or a Spider-Man do this to even if it is a villain, it is still absolutely terrifying. But I must say, before I end this video off, before I say anything else, before I say goodbye to all of y'all, the most important thing is that black suit is fire on Spider-Man. I'm just saying. Look, man, there's something about a Venom-like inspired or Venom suit for Spider-Man, and this suit is so good. It is terrifying, it is intimidating, and it's just beautiful. I love it so much, and I know that's a little bit off topic, but having a more evil or at least more anger-induced Spider-Man is always a pleasure in my book, even if it's not your traditional Spider-Man. I love seeing it. I love seeing when heroes go off the rails just a little bit. Shows that they're human, shows that they have flaws, and it gives a little bit more character to the character, right? If you know what I'm saying. With that said, though, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the idea of Spider-Man stopping, or Spider-Man basically stopping pulling his punches, or what would have happened if Spider-Man did stop pulling his punches in any regard, any comic you can think of. But I would love to hear some suggestions as well. Do you have any comics for me to read in terms of Spider-Man being either evil, being angry, or being someone who stops pulling their punches, stuff like that? Would love to hear some suggestions. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to leave a comment down below as well. And if you enjoy this video, YouTube believes that you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.